Welcome back to the Better Everyday podcast, where we are unlocking our best self one episode at a time. My name is David Garcia, and this is my beautiful co-host, Grace Garcia, my wife. First, we want to start off this episode 18 weeks strong, by saying thank you very much for all the feedback and all the love that we've been receiving from episode 17. If you guys haven't seen it yet, it's a must-see. It's talking about dealing with loss, dealing with grief, and the feedback has been overwhelming. The most common feedback that we've been getting, or one of the common responses that we've been getting, is we laughed with you, we cried with you.
Yes.
And it's been beautiful to see how many people it's touched. I'm not making it a humongous deal because it's not much compared to like normal YouTube videos, but it's in the 200 to 300 range of views. But regularly our videos get like about 100 and something. So,
but even then, it's not even about the views. Like the people who have reached out and shared with us their story and how part of the podcast has helped them and just encouraged them and motivated them, that has, like, just a handful of people has been amazing, and that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, and it's been very overwhelming. Myself, Grace, her sister Melody, and her brother Jesse are all in one chat, and we've been sending each other screenshots of what people have been sending. And it's really beautiful, humbling, overwhelming. And I just keep thinking over and over again. And I told the group as well, like, this is what this podcast is all about, you know? And me and Grace have talked about it over and over again. It's not about getting the thousands or millions of views, but it's about making content that really touches people's hearts, and it helps them think maybe differently, or helps them get out of a hole. It's just about trying to be better every single day. And it's really beautiful. And we appreciate you guys taking the time to send that feedback and connect with us. And I hope you guys feel heard and loved. We are ready and willing to respond to any. It makes us really excited when people send their feedback and send us their responses or how they felt. It's and I hope you guys feel that you know, we're ready to love you all. And so moving on, today we wanted to talk about I guess this could be kind of a reaction podcast, but also just, you know, having our own conversations. But if you guys haven't seen the Carl Lents Lights On podcast, we highly recommend it. It's a very beautiful podcast. It's very eye-opening. It's a Christian podcast, but they talk about things that most Christians don't talk about. And if you guys don't know who Carl Lents is, maybe you guys might know who Hillsong Church is. And so he used to be a pastor at Hillsong Church, but he was based in New York. And maybe you might have seen him out with, you know, Justin Bieber and some other celebrities. He was kind of known as like the celebrity pastor. But you know, he went through some things. He made some not good decisions, and it became public. And that's when Hillsong kind of kicked him out of, you know, like the church organization. And he went through this whole process. And the beautiful thing, in one of the episodes, he says, I went through this publicly, so now I have to kind of show everybody publicly what restoration looks like and talk about my whole process. And so the first couple of episodes, I think they only have maybe 5 episodes, right? 5 or 6. And the first couple have all been asking, you know, it's him and his wife, and they're asking each other tough questions, kind of questions that other people that know them might ask. And they're just being very open, vulnerable, and transparent. And they're just talking about their process, how he realized that he had an addiction, how he had to go seek. Well, he actually went into a rehab. He sought therapy, and he went through the work. And that's the beautiful part of it, is that a lot of people would have ran away from that situation, but he decided to stay and do the work, which is hard because he actually ended up cheating on his wife. And you can already imagine, if you're a wife, imagine your husband cheating on you, what that process looks like, what that healing process looks like. It's really, really tough. And so that's why we say we highly recommend it, because this is not like, I guess if you aren't a believer, you might think a lot of Christians are Bible thumpers, just like, hey, well, we're going to throw faith at you and we're going to throw the Bible at you, and you probably won't even understand the words that we're saying, but we're going to give it to you regardless. But they're talking from like a very humane or humanity-based like verbiage, or like what they're talking about is very understandable. And it's beautiful because he really just faced what he did. And like you said, he was a very public figure. He failed in a very public way, and now he's just being open, and just like that's beautiful in itself. And so what I'm trying to get at is, I think episode 5, it starts talking about he sits down with a doctor. He's a psychiatrist, and his name is Dr. Amen. You might have seen him in other podcasts. I've seen him in other podcasts as well. And he starts talking about just the brain. So this episode is just Carl Lentz and Dr. Amen, and they're talking about the brain. And this highly impacted us, mostly Grace. And it was actually Grace's idea to, do a podcast episode on this. And so, I kind of want to start off with you. Like, what was it that impacted you the most out of that episode?
Yeah, well, I want to say, kind of going off what you said about Carl Lentz podcast, I personally started watching just because of the Cheese Man. Like, I want to know what's going on with him and his wife. Like, what happened? Did she really forgive him? How did she forgive him? And it wasn't until like the 3rd and 4th episode where I'm like, wow, this is impacting my life, because we have not been in a situation that huge. Mm-hmm. And so in the beginning, I'm like, I can't really learn much from it. But then just how to see it from a leadership perspective of how to treat people who fall like that, friends, how to be a good friend to people who fall like that, parents, how to have conversations to your kids so that they don't fall like that, how our mind works in sin and like cycles was so eye-opening. So highly recommend it. And I mean, our podcast is called the Better Everyday Podcast, and that is in every area of our life. And when I saw that specific episode with the psychiatrist, I was convicted. And I even told my husband, like, it's scary when you're convicted, when you're truly convicted, because there's a passage, I think it's in James, I could be wrong, where it says that if you know what to do, if you know what the right thing to do, but you don't do it, it's sin. Mm-hmm. And so the more knowledge you have, the more responsibility you have to act on that knowledge. It's not like you can use that excuse anymore. I didn't know, or I wasn't told, whatever it is. And so with that conviction, you have ultimately 2 choices. I see it. It's either do it, but it's going to be hard. That's why you haven't been doing it in the first place, because usually it goes against the current. It's the least walked through. You don't have many people around you helping you, mentoring you to do it. So that's one option that's going to be hard, doing it. Or the other option is ignoring it when it's gnawing at you, knowing that's the right thing to do, and knowing it's going to be bad for your life and your health. And so I'm like, I obviously know what the right thing to do is, but it's so hard. So what he was talking about, Dr. Amen, he was one of the pioneers in his field. So many psychiatrists talk to people, kind of see what the symptoms are, what are you feeling, and then prescribe medicine. Mm-hmm. He said out of every single organ and member of your body, they are the only ones who don't look at the actual organ, like the brain itself, before mm-hmm. prescribing anything. They're more than likely to just prescribe something without even looking at what's wrong in the first place. So he was a pioneer in his field of, let's look at the brain.
Wait. So sorry to interrupt you, but just to go a little bit deeper, like if you go to a heart doctor, they're going to do like sonograms or whatever of your heart. If you go to any sort of organ doctor, they do x-rays, they do MRIs, they do all these things. And what he was saying is, like, a psychiatrist, like they deal with the brain, they deal with the mind, and most of them don't do x-rays. They
don't look at it.
And he's one of the ones, like you said, the pioneers that have done that. And based on that, Because the one thing that he says, it's so easy to judge what somebody does. It's a lot harder to be like, but why did he do that? You know, what were the causes of this? And so he went a little bit deeper. And that's the beautiful thing is that he did, like you said, it's most psychiatrists like, oh, you got this, you got depression, here's your medicine and see you later. He actually takes scans of the brain and he goes, okay, I don't know much about brain terminology, but like the frontal lobe is a little bit affected. So that means that you're going to act like this or that or whatever. And so that's the really incredible thing and something that he's definitely putting it out there and that more psychiatrists should be doing.
Yeah, for sure. And so you can hear the podcast. Hopefully you can put like an image of what it is and just hear for yourself. It's crazy. He mentioned one person who completely like changed their life around based off of a cyst they found in their brain. But anyways, so he's saying how important the brain is. And there's certain things that can hurt our brain. And remember, our brain has like our thoughts. And out of our thoughts is going to be our mindset. And out of our mindset is how we're going to live. So our brain is very important. It's what dictates our life, ultimately. And so if we are taking care of it, we're more likely going to make good decisions. We're going to think good thoughts and live a good life. If we're hurting it, then it's going to be the opposite of that. And so that's what impacted me was things you eat, things you do can have a physical altercation or physical damage to your brain. And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, now that I'm hearing it, I am convicted and I'm like, this is going to be the hard part. And there was many like quotes in the podcast that I'd like to like bring up and kind of unwrap on. I personally was convicted and he comes from a religious background. I don't know if he's like super religious now, but even you guys know already, David and I are a Christian. From a Christian, like loving people, loving Jesus standpoint, I was like, wow, like we were failing as people, but as Christians, as parents, I'm feeling myself, like I really like just opened my eyes to do we really care or do we just say we care?
Yeah.
Or are we taking, the Bible always mentions these two paths, the one that's narrow and very difficult, but that's necessary to walk truly in the abundance of life, and one that's wide and everyone's going and it's easy, not really going anywhere. And I feel like as a nation, even as a church, we take the easy way out and it kind of ends up being superficial change. Like not much is happening because we don't want to do the hard work. And that hard work, we've said it time and time again on this podcast, it is the hard work that is going to get you success. It's the hard work that is going to make you be on that mountaintop and say, I overcame and I changed it for my generations. I changed it for the trajectory of people after me. And that's not something that's going to be easy. And it's only been a week of me listening to it and I already am like, dang, this is already not easy. Like, this is going to be hard. I've done small changes, but it's going to take way more than that. So let me give you guys a few quotes. Again, I highly recommend that you guys listen to this podcast, whether you want to pause it here and watch it first or watch it afterwards. We'd love to know what you guys think about it. But there was one thing that said, so they talked about a lot of topics, but what really convicted me was the things we intake into our body that affect our mental health. Because again, you can get hit by a ball and that affects your brain. You can have a lot of negative thoughts and that slowly affects your brain. There's a lot of things that affect your brain and all of that matters. So I don't want to say like that's not important. This is the most important. But I'm just telling you guys, this is like our perspective of like what convicted me listening to it. And it was what I was feeding my body. Because I feel like, well, I don't play any hard sports. So I don't think I'm going to have any head injuries. And I've been doing a really good, I think this past year, I've been focusing on my mental health of like, when I complain, when I have negative thoughts, I am replacing them with good. I start my day in a positive note, reading my Bible, giving God thanks, and I end it with my, like, God, thank you for this day. So I've been really mindful of making sure my thoughts are in a good place. So now it's what I'm feeding my brain. asking myself, is this good for my brain? Whether that's consuming so much social media, is this good for my brain? Whether that's drinking a soda, is this good for my brain? That's what really convicted me. Mm-hmm. And he said that's the main thing. Taking a look at something and just asking yourself that. Is this good for my brain? It's a yes or no question. That's it. And that yes or no, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was one of the first couple podcasts where we had like that donut discussion and people were like laughing, like, let Grace have her donut.
Yeah.
And he said something so, I guess it could be seen as harsh, where he said moderation is the road to hell. And I hate that phrase. Like, I hate that sentence.
I love it.
I know you do, and I hate it. But, well, what do you think? You love it?
I love it. I mean, so, yeah, he talks about, he doesn't just talk about what we consume, but he also talks about the one important thing that I see a lot of Americans do is he said, you only get 4 hours of sleep. That's not good for you.
Yeah.
That messes with your brain, chemistry. Obviously, the trauma. The one thing that I like that he said about trauma, just to go back a little bit, is trauma affects your brain, obviously. So depending on how many traumatic experiences you had as a kid, if you had 4 or more, you have increased chances of getting 7 out of 10 leading causes of death in a human. And if you have 6 or more, you died 20 years earlier.
That's crazy.
Now, I'm not telling you guys this for you to be like, I'm a goner. Like I had 20, like that's it. I'm obviously cutting 40 years of my life. What he said was, because obviously he's a psychiatrist, he's like, you can work on these things to like counteract them. But it's up to you. But if you had, let's say, all these traumatic experiences, because let's say I had traumatic experiences as a kid, and then on top of that, you're going to sleep late because you're gaming or you're watching social media or you're watching your shows, and then you wake up and you've only had 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And a lot of people like take pride in that, especially like the ones that are like go-getters. Like, well, I'm not gaming and I'm not social media. Like I'm doing work. And that's why I only get 4 to 5. And that's fine. That's all I need. I need optimum. I need as much time during the day for me to work at optimum levels and blah, 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 blah. But you're shaving years off your life. That is not good for you. He said also in the episode that your brain needs at least 7 hours of sleep because as you sleep, your brain actually washes itself.
Yeah. And
if it doesn't properly wash itself, then it's just continuing to have negative effects on the brain. Like it's very important for you to get those hours of sleep. Like, but a lot of people don't see that. But it's very important. Then he does talk about the consuming, and the one thing that he said is he went to like a kid's school. I don't know if it was elementary or what. I think it was elementary. And he said he gave them 20 different things, and he had to. The kids had to separate them. Is this good for your brain or is this bad for your brain? And he said most of them got it right. Smoking, drinking, all bad for you, right? He's like the only one that they got wrong was they put orange juice in the good category, which a lot of people would think like, well, it's vitamin C, it's a fruit. Mm-hmm. But apparently, every time you liquefy a fruit, it becomes bad. It does something to the chemistry of the fruit where I think the sugar levels, like...
Because you're adding way more fruit than just one serving.
Yeah.
So it's way more
something
sugar.
Like that. And so he was saying like, that's a lot of sugar. If you have an orange by itself, it's not bad. Mm. But you have orange juice, it's bad. And so that's what he was talking about. He was talking about the consumption and then Carl Lentz, I think he knew, and he was just like poking him, and he was like, well, what if you work out really hard, or like, is there any instance where you can have just a little bit? And that's when he said the line, moderation is the road to hell. And it's like you're tricking yourself, like, oh, just a little bit, or I worked out really hard today, so I'm gonna have this donut. Like you're either gonna, I think it's kind of like the Bible. Like there is no lukewarm.
Yeah, that's what I wrote right here. It's like lukewarm.
You're either you're in or you're out.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. And that the crazy thing is that we've all grown up, especially the ones that are like 20 plus years. We've all grown up on this food. We've all grown up on these desserts. We've all grown up on these treats. We've all grown up on McDonald's and fast food. We've all grown up on this, and our brains. I forget who I was talking to about this, but like I'm 34 years old. If I ate these things for 34 years, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to take control of my life and I'm going to be healthy. What do you think your body and your brain are going to say? Like, I can imagine them being a separate person and just start swearing at me. Like, you've been feeding us this for so long, and all of a sudden you're just going to decide that, oh, like you're going to be healthy. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not going to go over well. And that's the hard part, where when people start to make those decisions or even thinking about it, like, do I want to do it? It's going to be torture or whatever. It somewhat is torture, because I'm a little pessimistic, okay? I'm a little pessimistic in regards to companies that make all these sugary treats, all these fast foods. Like, the way that I see it is none of these companies care about us. Mm-hmm. That to me is very clear. All they care about is numbers. They need you to continue coming back to get their product. Mm-hmm. They need you to come back and give them money. And they need to take those numbers and that money and show it to their board and be like, we're growing, you're growing. You look at any of these, they do like quarterly reports, all these companies, they almost always say we're growing, or we're trying to grow, or we're trying to do this to grow. And they're either going to get your mind, which means like with ads and marketing and stuff, or they're going to get you with the ingredients that they're putting in these things, which is usually sugar or salt. Our bodies love sugar and salt. And so I say, like, these companies don't care about us. Like, and when I personally look at it like that, I'm like, all right, it's me against those companies, you know. And because I'm like somewhat prideful, I'm just like, okay, I'll go toe to toe with these people, and I won't give them my money or whatever. But the point is that because we've been giving our bodies this over and over again, it feels like torture. And then not only that, then we go through the same, you know, it's not even a Christian thing, but it's just like the comparison of like, she just got McDonald's, but I'm not allowed to get McDonald's. And she's having the time of her life. And I'm over here suffering with my lettuce or with my rabbit food or whatever. Like, it's somewhat torture when you start looking at that. And your everything wants to go. It's so easy to just go to McDonald's and pay $5 and get my burger and fries. But you have to overcome that. And that's the hard part. That low key, if I want to be straight and honest, like, we're addicted to the things that we consume. Yeah. And that's why we always want to kind of justify it. Like, does a little bit hurt? Like, if I have a lot, I know that messes me. But a little bit, like, it's not even that bad.
But then there's people like addicts where they start with a little bit and they don't even know that they're pushing the boundary. Mm-hmm. And so that's when they start gaining the weight. That's when they start eating it way more than they needed to, because that's how it starts. Like, I'm not addicted. I just need it once a week for, let's say, to give myself a break for meal.
Yeah.
And then that's when they slowly start pushing the line. And I mean, for me, I don't want to sound like cocky, but you can see, like, I've always been thin. So I kind of justify it as like, I'm good. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I'm good in that area. I can eat and I'm fine.
Yeah.
But what, again, convicted me was the Christian part. So I hope you guys can see it from like a Christian perspective, where, because he said something like, how, I don't remember if I asked this question or if he said it in the podcast, but about how can we ask Christians to say we care about a person? I think it's in the podcast, but we don't. Like, we always say it's not about religion. It's not, right? Mm-hmm. We say it's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And we drill that into new believers, into new souls. And we truly believe that Christianity is this holistic perspective, that it's not just you going to church, but it's to change your life. It's like a sanctification process to make you more like Christ. And we care about not just your soul, but we care about you as a human. We care about your mental health. We care about you, like, point blank, as a person. But how can we say that we care about them when America, like, we're doing so bad on the physical aspect?
Yes.
So bad. And he said, and he talked about, like, again, watch it. I don't want to like summarize what he said because you guys can watch it. But I like listened to it and I'm like, of course, like, even as a teacher, how do we get kids to find extrinsic motivation. It's like, I'll give you candy, or let's throw a pizza party. I picked up my daughter that same day. I listened to the podcast, and it was like 4th of July celebration, and they were giving her donuts. And then I go into on Monday Teachers Lounge, and it was thank you for all you do. Donuts, like everywhere.
And what do churches do as like, hey, welcome to church or whatever?
Yeah, like coffee
donuts.
and sweets or something. And it's like, it's part of our culture where it's like as a thank you, as celebration. It's everywhere. And that it's like church saves you just to kill you. Because think about our culture, and that's where I think we made even a podcast. We talked about it a little bit. It's in the name of ministry, right? Which is like in vain. We are going to sleep ridiculously late, stressing over working full-time and serving, hanging out and doing community and eating so late at night, bad food nonetheless. All of that is killing you. Like there's no saying it simple. Oh, but I'm doing it for community. Oh, but I'm doing it for God's kingdom. God will not ask you for you yourself to poison yourself to kill you for him. He's not going to ask you that. If others throw a rock at you and like do what Paul, like they hit him, that is something else. But Paul never self-inflicted harm.
Yeah.
All of his suffering came from outside. It wasn't self-inflicted. And so the fact that I kept saying that over and over in the name of ministry, because we hide behind it. Because we don't want to face the reality that walking this life, the life and life in abundance, how Jesus wants to, is the life of take up your cross. It's going to suffer because you're going to have to say no to a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's going to maybe hurt physically. It's going to hurt emotionally. It's going to hurt maybe even relationally, because people are not going to understand. And that's where I'm like, I self-doubt myself. Like, can I do this? Am I strong enough? Because this is so hard. It's everywhere we go. Like we cannot avoid it if we live here. Yeah. And that's the scary thing about it.
I also wonder, as you were speaking about, churches and stuff, I kind of wonder, and this is just like a curiosity question. I wonder if it's conscious or subconscious when churches like give donuts or give In-N-Out or whatever, because I wonder if it's like a marketing strategy, because obviously when a person eats, especially a sweet or like a food that I wonder if they know that their brain associates like, this is a good time. And now I'm relating this building or these group of people to this feeling that I'm feeling right now, eating this donut or eating this food. Yeah. And I'm kind of curious. Like, I think there's some that consciously do it, and there's some that just subconsciously like, oh, like all the other churches do it, or like, just as a thank you, whatever. And maybe they don't even think about it. But like, I wonder if there's some that actually do think about it, like, this, like, kind of the same thing that regular companies, like food companies do, like what they do it with advertising, they do it with marketing, like what they're trying to do with that marketing and the advertising is they're going to try to grab your attention. There's a connection between our company and you. We're going to make you feel things that other companies can't make you feel. Yeah. We're going to give you memories that other companies can't give you memories of. Like it's just that, and I wonder if, churches do that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I have done that, either bring it to like a small group or to a kid's class or something, I think it's sometimes even people pleasing. Like if I bring vegetables, no one's going to give me compliments. Yeah. No one's going to be like, wow, this is delicious. And a little bit is feeding like your ego or making them, how you said, feel happy. But that can go with a preaching. When we preach just to tickle their ears, the Bible says, to give them what they want to hear, to get flattery from the people. That is all surface level. Like that doesn't really, those conversations don't touch the heart. Those conversations don't transform, don't bring life. But the same food that we bring, we want just compliments in this, but we're not benefiting that person. It is completely selfish and it's not life-giving. We're not adding any value to their life. And it's worrisome because it's like you want obviously everyone to change. You even want to change. But it's like you see this huge mountain and you're like, I need to chip at it little bit by little bit, but it's so overwhelming. You're like everything's against you that it's like, why even begin? Like, why did I even have to listen to the podcast? Like, why did I even have to know this? Like, I'm so discouraged. And that's where like I get excited and I got convicted listening to it. And then after the emotions go, you're just like, this is exhausting.
Yeah. And it's because it seems like you're swimming against the current. But the other thing that I wanted to mention was I think it's a huge responsibility for churches to like talk about the body, the physical body, the health of that body, talk about the spiritual, and talk about the mental health. Like that's all I think the responsibility of the church leaders. And I'm talking about just all church leaders. It's a responsibility of theirs. I mean, it's not like we can twist people's arms and be like, you better eat the celery or whatever.
Yeah.
But the same way that you talk against sin is the same way that you should be talking about, hey, like you shouldn't be stuffing your face with Chick-fil-A or
I feel attacked. No, I agree. But I wonder, you said they're companies. Mm-hmm. So many people that are against Christians or the church see church as an institution like businesses. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy and it's ironic that they talk about sin, their life, you know, like if you do this, God will love you or whatever, trying to get people into the door. And money. You have to offer. It's part of your living life in abundance. God wants to bless you and bless you in abundance. But they don't want to talk about what's true wealth, which is living a long and healthy life. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like those companies where they only talk about or advertise what's going to benefit them in reality.
Do you feel like churches are scared? Like they're like, okay, like we know that churches will talk about sin. We know that churches will some churches will talk about financial prosperity. We know that some churches will talk about tithing. You know, that's like the norm. Everybody knows that. But not many churches are known for talking about being healthy. And do you think that some churches are scared to talk about that because that's more like challenging for people to accept? And they'll be like, if you're not going to let me, or if I keep feeling attacked by you talking about being healthy, I'm out of here and I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that. Like we live in a place where we don't want to be called out, and a preaching like that is going to call out a lot of people and make a lot of people uncomfortable because majority of us are in that boat of not being healthy. But also a lot of pastors don't get enough sleep. Mm-hmm. A lot of pastors eat late at night. A lot of pastors, unfortunately, I've known so many pastors to have heart attacks and even die from high blood pressure, from high cholesterol. And that's what's sad about it. So I feel like another part of them not being able to feel like they preach is because they themselves are not living that. And so it's like, who am I to talk about that if I haven't gotten it together yet? But I think it's another way that Satan is trying to attack the church. Because he's like, okay, if I can't have them watch porn or do drugs, like what is the most acceptable way to kill them? Mm-hmm. To have them even sin, because gluttony is sin. To have them lose self-control, which is the fruit of the Spirit. It's discipline. It's being a follower of Christ, being able to say no to your desires, to choose what's right and life-giving. And so it's him slowly putting those chains on us. And he's succeeded in America. But it's people don't want to call it out because it's normal. It's not even seen as a sin anymore. Mm-hmm. But that was what convicted me. And I'm just like, I mean, it starts with me, then my family, and then maybe seeing some change.
Just a little side note. Another thing that Dr. Amen was talking about was the dopamine dump.
Yeah.
And basically, the way that I see it is, if you guys haven't seen it, there's a maze. They put 2 rats in it. they have like a water bottle and one of them has like heroin in it or something like that. And there's another water bottle, just a regular water bottle. When the mouse or the rats finally find the one with the heroin, they keep coming to it and coming to it until it just kills them, right? And I think there's a lot of things that give us that same effect to us humans.
Yeah.
So you talked about it. Porn, that does it. Like everything that can be addicting, that's why it's addicting.
Yeah.
Because we keep trying to press that button of like dopamine rush, dopamine rush, dopamine rush. And what he was explaining in the episode is you keep getting those dopamine dumps, you're going to get, what's the word that I'm looking for? Numb to that feeling. And so now you need a bigger dopamine rush. Get numb again. Now you need a bigger dopamine rush. Get numb again. And that's why you see a lot of messed up people because they're like numb in the brain. And he talks about that. He's like, I see that on the scans. Like people are just hit that button way too many times.
Yeah.
And that's food. That's what you drink. That's what you consume. That's what you consume through your eyes. That's what you consume, like porn, drugs, alcohol, all these things that people keep, I need more for that feeling. Like it could be detrimental to you. And that includes, and this is a very general to everybody, what we consume, what we eat, and what we drink. Like it's crazy. And what you were saying is it's very discouraging because so many people, let's say, are in column A where it's like, oh, it's just the norm. Like, and honestly, I was kind of thinking about it today. Cause you know how like sometimes I ask questions about the Bible for you and like, this is not the topic, but this is the only one I can really think of off the top of my head. Where somewhere in the Bible it says like women should not be pastors or they should not speak or whatever, and the response that I get from you or Nate is that was the culture in the time, and I think about the word culture and like I think about somebody trying to justify it. Well, that's the American culture, so like just let it happen, right? But what I'm thinking about is like going back to churches. If the people preaching at churches in America would start speaking about this continuously as they make it like known that it's very important, then I feel like slowly, I don't know how long it would take. It might take months, it might take years, but slowly you would start seeing a shift, and little by little the current would change from this is culture, this is what we eat, to let's all be healthier. Because we've talked about it here before. What is the best way to embrace a new habit? It's to surround yourself with people that have those habits and that are disciplined in those habits. Because if you surround yourself by those people, whether it's out of guilt of like, I'm not going to eat a burger when everyone else here is eating something super healthy, you know, like whether it's out of that or whether it's just out of like gaining that knowledge, like, hey, like what would you recommend? Like for my macros, for my protein intake, what's the healthiest? What's my body going to be able to digest? What's going to be good for my brain? That way, like, but if we go to a church in America and the church culture in most churches is like, especially in Hispanics, like what do they do after church? They have a huge like cook-off and it's usually not healthy food. So it's hard. It's very discouraging to be the one little fishy swimming against the current of like millions of fishes that are like, this is just the norm. Yeah. Just go with the flow. And the sad part is, excuse me, and we've talked about it, is people usually wait for the doctor to tell them, hey, I got bad news for you. And then they go, I got to change my life. And so usually when the doctor usually tells you like, hey, I got bad news, it's because it's bad news. Like it's going to be a tough time to reverse it. But that's one of my pet peeves is that people need those bad news for you to finally be like, oh my goodness, everything that I've been doing is completely wrong. I shouldn't have been eating this whole time. Like now I'm going to change my life. Like why? Do people have to wait to that point of like, okay, now I'm going to change. Like, change right now. And again, it's unfair to yourself, and it's unfair to the people that love you. Mm-hmm. Like, especially if you're parents and you have kids, like, don't you want your kids to have parents for as long as they possibly can? Don't you want to be there for them? Don't you want, like, if they're 30 and you're 60, like, if they're going through something, do you not want to be there when they're going through something tough? Do you not want to be there when they have something, need somebody to call? Like, it's very important.
Yeah, or even like the financial aspect where they say, I want my kid to have the wisdom I didn't have, so it's not harder for them. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, I don't want my kid to also grow up addicted to these bad foods, and I make it hard for them to make that choice. It's like, I want to make it easy for them to be like, this is our lifestyle. This is how we were brought up.
Yeah.
So I can continue eating a good life and not backtrack them so much. That's how I've been seeing it.
And the crazy thing is what you said, because we have the knowledge, it's wrong for us to turn away from that knowledge, knowing that that's the right way to do things, right? And I think we also have to embrace we have to be what we want to see. And in a way, like, I'm not bestowing this responsibility upon us, but like, it is a responsibility of us to at least do this for us and our family, you know? And if other people, like if our people in our circle embrace it, like, awesome. And if it continues to like network out, awesome. That it's going to be easy. It's completely not going to be easy, because wherever we go, there's only usually bad things that are available.
Yeah.
Like right now, we just made the decision to switch from Walmart groceries to like Whole Foods. And you spend how many hours trying to make the grocery list? And
It was like a day and a half.
And I'm sure like that's off-putting to you, right? And so your brain already, we've talked about it before, your brain wants to do the easiest thing, not the hardest thing. And so now your brain's probably telling you like, Grace, just go back to Walmart. It takes you like 2 minutes to do the grocery list, and then you get it when you want. Like, you don't have to figure nothing out, you know? But what you know is right is like, even if it takes a little bit more time, this is what's right for myself and my family, you know? And like I said, that is going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. And this is for you listener as well. If you're hearing this and being convicted and you're just like, I need to make these changes, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
And if we want to mesh this topic with atomic habits, then you could also kind of go away from the moderation, because we already said moderation is the road to hell. But atomic habits does say make small changes, and those small changes over time will compound, right? And this is not to say make small changes and just continue justifying, oh, just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. The whole point of you making those small changes is to eventually be completely 100% healthy, you know? And that would mean, hey, commit to a date. In 6 months, I'm going to do this process and I'm going to make those small changes. Because the reason why we talk about small changes is what I'm telling you right now. Like, if you go cold turkey from easy to hard, your brain's going to be like, no, mija, like, go back to easy. We want easy. Your body, your flesh, your mind is just telling you, we want easy. Your conviction is the one telling you like, hey, like, no, it's okay if it takes a little bit more.
Yeah.
But what usually wins, let's be honest, in humans, it's usually the flesh and the mind just telling you like, no, like, easiest is better.
And I think even before that, I've already been trying to tell myself, like, I am someone who wants to be best in every area. And so I feel like when you identify with that and change your identity, like, not to lie and say like, oh, I'm healthy, I eat the best, but I'm someone who always seeks the best and will do my best, then I can pass up the donut in the teacher's lounge. And it's like, okay, no, I'm doing this because I already know what's best for me, and I'm someone who is going to try to be a better version of herself in all areas of life. Or when it's getting groceries for my family, I'm a mom who cares, and trying to tie my identity with that, to want to change first, has been helping. But that it's hard.
And I think what's ultimately important right now that you're speaking, it's just the surrounding yourself with people. Because, okay, so let's say nothing in your life changes. You're making the changes within our family. Well, we're making the changes. You go into the teacher's lounge and there's donuts. And the first day you're just like, no, I'm a healthy person. And I feel like that's willpower, right? Mm-hmm. A week later, donuts again. Nope. I'm a healthy person. Third week comes by, there's donuts. Oh man, I haven't had a donut in a couple weeks. I've been doing really good. Maybe just a bite. Just to like take the edge off. Just one bite. And that's why, like, in Atomic Habits, it says willpower is not enough.
Yeah.
It's not. You're going to lose most of those battles. But when you surround yourself with those people, it becomes so much easier. And I think that's the most important part, is surrounding yourself with those people, finding those people, surrounding yourself with them, because then that becomes your culture.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't matter if the circle's not that big, like, but that it's important because willpower, it's really not gonna, like, for me personally, I'm gonna be honest, like, willpower, I think the longest my willpower has lasted is about a year. Before, it used to be only like 3 months. But I think it was last year that I lasted like 52 weeks or 56 weeks, something like that. I mapped it out and everything. And I lasted. And, but it was just willpower. And I did try to, like, you know, rally up some friends, you know, like, oh, we're going to do this together. But it was just really, we're running on willpower. And little by little, one by one, we fell and we...
Well, I think you said that's the easiest part of finding. That's the hardest part.
What?
Finding a community
No.
like you.
Finding that community
but once you're
hard.
with that community, it's
but when
easy.
Yes.
But that, just finding that is so hard, because you can, I'm sure, go on a Facebook group and be like, okay, who's healthy? But then you have to connect in other ways than health, you know, like to want to be living life with them. It's like, okay, are our morals the same? Do we have kids? Are you married? To find someone who, like, you can do life with, who are healthy, that's so hard, I feel like.
Okay, I think you're thinking about, I guess from my perspective, I think you're thinking about like forever friends, like people that we're going to do the rest of our life with. I mean, I think we're going to have circles, and maybe you guys can weigh in on this. This is just my opinion. Like, I feel like we're going to have circles that are focused on finances and business. I feel like we're going to have some circles that have to do with like social media presence.
Yeah.
I feel like some circles are going to be more Bible based. Some circles are going to be family based. Some circles are going to be health based. Like, I don't think that is hard to find people that, like, okay, you check off all these boxes. Yeah. You're going to be our friends forever.
But even like your health friends, well, I guess you can like do a health community online and stuff, but I feel like that's hard to.
No, I personally don't think it can be online. It would have to be in person.
Because then if your family friends want to eat at that restaurant and you're not like still like, you know, rooted into that health group, and then your family wants to go out to eat too, and then at church they have it, that's so hard.
And that's the thing. When it comes to discipline, one of the most important words that you could know is no. Some people aren't going to understand it. Oh, let's go eat at this place. No. Or I can go, but I'm not going to eat. And they're going to look at you all weird like, why aren't you eating? Everybody else is eating.
Yeah.
And me just saying that triggers myself, because I'm just like, I don't care what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Just eat your
but
freaking
it's
food.
For some people than others.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, that's why you have accountability.
Yeah.
Like, but it is hard. And that is not the point of this podcast episode. We're not here to tell you like, oh, how hard it's going to be. We've been definitely focused on that. But the point of this episode really is just being healthy, and what we consume in every single aspect affects our brain, and it's crazy. Like he was talking in that podcast, and this is going back to the podcast, that trauma really shifts your brain, and he could like scan a brain and be like, oh yeah, you've been through trauma, like, and that it actually opens you up. Trauma in a childhood opens you up and makes you more susceptible to what do you say? Anger, worry, being controlling, because I that part I do understand, and maybe I'm like, that's maybe why I'm so controlling, is that I always try to control all my circumstances because I never want to like be in a traumatic experience. So I hate not having control. I mean, I'm being open and transparent. I hate not having control.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I'm like, maybe that's why, because I never want to relive any sort of trauma, like, and yeah, it makes more negative, which I grew up being very negative as well, like, and it affects you. That's the point. But that you can counteract it, you can, but it all depends on the habits that you are practicing, the sleeping, what you're eating.
And the more, that's what I think convicted me is, like, again, the more your brain is being fed with healthy food, the more you're going to have healthy thoughts. You're not going to be sad. You're not going to worry. You're not going to be anxious. I mean, everyone gets those thoughts. We get tempted with them. But a weak, non-healthy brain is very hard to turn those thoughts away. And so it starts becoming your mindset. That starts becoming your mindset. You're going to be someone who starts letting go of yourself. Someone who doesn't have drive. Someone who doesn't have energy to be with their kids or their family. Like, it starts not only messing your mental health, but you start seeing that you're not who you want to be.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking how you should be, but because you're not feeding your brain how you should be. And that's, I think, what has helped me is I've always had that in me where I'm trying to achieve more and more. Like, I like the hustle and the bustle. But I know that right now I'm kind of at my max. Like, right now, this is all I can give with my own, how you said, my own willpower. That there's more potential, I'm sure. Like, I know this isn't it. Like, there's more for me that God has. But I think I'm physically at my willpower, and that's not okay. Because if it's so, like, frustrating knowing, okay, my potential is up here, but I'm like hitting a wall, like hitting a roof. And we said it, like I said as a joke, but I did go to the doctor this week, and she was like, what brings you in? And I'm like, my husband complains I'm tired all the time. And I'm glad. I mean, I'm dreading all of the appointments. I'm dreading getting poked on my arm. Like, I'm dreading it. But I do believe that there are underlying issues, whether I'm anemic or it's my jaw, whatever it is, for my exhaustion. If I'm constantly exhausted, it's going to affect how much I put into my ministry, which I believe my ministry is my students, how much I put into my kids because I'm always tired, how much I put into my relationship with you.
Yeah.
That all plays a role into my life. Like, how fulfilled do I want my life to be? But I can only do that if I am treating my body and my mind good.
Yeah.
And I think that's there. You have no one to blame for your life. I truly think, like, yeah, we don't all start at an even playing field. Level, yes. We don't all start at the same level. Some of us have to do so much more work because we had those traumatic experiences. Some of us, we're taught so many bad habits. But at the end of the day, you decide if you are going to put in the work to overcome it and if you're going to hit your full potential. And there's no one else you could blame but yourself, and saying, did I do everything I could to reach my full potential? And I don't want to look at the mirror and say, I wasn't able to hit it because I chose the easy way out. Like, that's not something I want to do. Yeah.
And I just want to say one last thing just for me. I don't know if you have anything else, but we talked about how hard it would be to make the change from going from fast food and all the junk that we have to being healthy, right? We talked about how it might feel like torture, but I also want to offer that there has to be a change of perspective for you to get to that point, right? Because at first it might feel like torture, like, oh, I've been craving Coke so bad. I need the pizza and I need the burgers or whatever. I need the chicken nuggets. I need the wings, whatever. But it's like you said, like with that type of food, you get the dopamine dump. The moment that you take that first bite, you're like, oh yeah, there's a release of chemicals in your brain. But then after, how do you feel? Especially if you stuffed your face.
Yeah.
Like you feel like garbage. And like nobody can lie. Like you feel like garbage. And then maybe it's, like you said, like little by little, it starts affecting your health. It starts affecting your sleep. It changes your hormone levels 100%. It does all these chemical things in your body. And then it's like, okay, you're like the mice in the maze. All you care about is that dopamine rush. But to offer a change of perspective, like if we can change our perspective from I need the dopamine rush to let me put in the work. It's going to feel like torture a little bit at the beginning, but I need to do this hard work so I can do this change of healthy living, whether that's being active, also eating the right foods, organic foods, no pesticides, no growth hormones, no GMO, and no whatever else there is in these foods nowadays. Let me make these changes. It's going to be a little bit more money, but it's going to be worth the investment. That's what you told me. You're like, it's an investment. That's where you got me. I'm done. You're going to make all these changes. And again, at first it's going to feel like torture, but as the time goes on and as you start embracing this and you start seeing changes and you start feeling the changes, then it's not just a dopamine hit. It's a long lasting, like I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel more energized. My mind, that's a lot of people that start making those changes all say, I used to feel like my brain was foggy, like my mind was foggy, but now it's clear. I can focus on things. I feel more active. I feel more energized. Like if you start doing all these things, crossing these T's and dotting these I's, eventually you're going to start feeling way better.
Yeah.
And you're going to see the benefits of you making these changes. And then it'll be less of I'm not going to lie, maybe you might still get like, those feelings of like, oh man, I wish I could bite into like a pizza or whatever, right? Like it's the same thing with sin. It's not like sin just poof goes away. Like I'm fine. Like you always have those thoughts sometimes just come in, but it's just like then you start weighing it. Like what, like you said, what is good for my brain? What is good for my body? What is good for my longevity? What is good representation of Christ? What is good for my whole entire being?
Yeah.
Like you can. If you choose a healthier path, you can be a better minister, you can be a better father, you can be a better husband, you can be a better wife, you can be a better mother, you can be a better student, you could be a better worker, you could be a better business person. Like there's so many benefits of you choosing this.
Yeah.
And that is the satisfaction and that is the fulfillment and that is your substitute, I guess, for the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
But you have to realize also, like, and this helps me, is like, that's what the companies want to do. They want to give you that dopamine rush. They're basically like feeding addicts. Accept it. We are addicted. I have a problem. This might be challenging to some of you guys, but you have to admit it. I have a problem and I need to change. I don't care about these companies. They don't care about me. I need to care about me.
Yeah.
And I need to find people that care about me, that will hold me accountable because I want to make this change today.
Well, the thing that helped me kind of shift how you said it's like a mind perspective was because I always saw it as like, oh, it's a treat, right? If I work out and I eat majority of the time good, then I treat myself with a donut. And something that the doctor said on the podcast was, it's like an abusive relationship when you're like, well, he loves me most of the time. And he buys me flowers. He gets me nice things. But yeah, he hits me here and there. But it's the price I'm willing to pay for all the good times we have. And it's how much do you love yourself? How much do you love your future? How much do you love your kids, the family around you? your God-given calling and ministry for you to say, I'm no longer going to compromise for those quote unquote good moments. And they're not good moments. But I think it starts how Atomic Habit says with our identity and our mindset towards things. Because for so long we're told it's a treat. It's good for you. So we're doing all our life for that treat. But if we start seeing that as, okay, I'm doing that for that poison, I think that tie it has on us will be easier to break. Because we're like, it's my reward. And so I have to start seeing it as like, okay, it's an abusive relationship is what it is. So am I really going to put all this hard work and all those good moments and throw it away for this poison, for this abusive relationship? But it's that the words have power. Our words, when we label things, it controls how we think about it and the relationship we have with it. And so I say one of the things is maybe stop seeing it as a treat and start seeing it as this is a toxic relationship.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I think that's going to help and challenge a lot of people.
I had to see it like that because, yeah, I mean, the donuts or even like the Coke, like I'm trying not to order Coke at all. Like I don't need it. And before I'm like, I don't drink Coke as much. Like we don't buy it in our household. And so I kind of justified it as, well, we don't buy it. So that's good. But then there's certain meals where I needed it. If I get a Big Mac, I'll get a Coke. If I get a Chick-fil-A Deluxe, I'll get a Coke. It's only those times I need a Coke. And then I'm like, no, just because I don't have it most of the time doesn't mean I get to have it on these special occasions. Like that's where I'm accepting this toxic relationship to come in and like hit me, like damage me, because that's what it's doing. It's those moments that it's hurting you. Do you really want to be hurt at that moment? No, I think we can all say no, we don't want to be. But it's going to take intentionality. It's going to take thinking about how we see that and breaking those mind shifts. And then how you said, easy steps first, things we can have control right now, accountability to make sure that we're continuing with the easy steps and slowly progressing forward with more and more until that becomes our lifestyle. And I think if you're someone like me, not judging people, because I can have this epiphany and not expect people to be like at my level.
Yeah.
Because that's not good either. Like Jesus didn't do that either. But it's a long road ahead, but we're more than welcome to bring you guys in, be transparent. We started off with our groceries. That was I don't want to say that's a baby step because I thought that was a pretty big step, but it's one of the many steps I still have to take.
Yeah.
And follow us along and hope that you guys join the journey. Maybe we can do like some sort of group or something where we motivate each other and share how we've been changing our lifestyle, because this is not going to be easy.
Yeah, we'd definitely be up for that. If anybody's interested in joining that group.
Like I don't know, would it be a Facebook group or an Instagram group chat on the Better Everyday podcast or something?
Well, you guys heard it here first. She went from, hey, can I have a little donut here and there to now she ain't got no donuts.
It's a toxic, if I do, it's a toxic relationship. I'm asking to get beat.
Honestly, I cannot wait. I'm thinking about an edit that I'm going to do for one of the clips. I'm going from when I'm like, no, to like, nah, you being super convicted.
No, but I did tell you I like changed my mind on that episode where I'm like, okay, you're right. It just sucks.
Yeah, but no change came from it.
And then, here it sucks. But
Carl Lents, thank you, because you changed my wife.
It was Dr. Amen.
Oh, it was Dr. Amen. My bad.
He has a TikTok. I've been seeing like his TikToks. And it's crazy how he says like the amount of people with ADHD or depression, anxiety. As a teacher, you guys, every year, students with those types of symptoms, it increases. And he says a lot of the things can be turned around with natural things. But doctors, it's so sad that doctors just say, oh yeah, you have it here. Here's medicine. Here, do this. And they
Honestly,
don't get to the
this country's
root
messed up
of the problem. Don't ever, and I hope you guys never go to the doctor and just take it for face value. Oh, I need to take this, I need to do that. They won't take they don't care about you as a person. So they're not going to go to the root of the problem. And that's what matters. But we can talk about this all day. We'll end rant here.
Well, like I said, you guys heard it here first. A convicted wife. We're making changes, and we encourage you guys to make changes as well. We are not forcing anybody. Again, the conversations that we have are in the hopes of you guys can listen to this and just at the very least think about it. Think about it. This podcast is all about being better every day, and this is one of the aspects where we all need to be better every day. And if you guys are open to the group, hey, hit us up. And we'll start like a little group, accountability group. And you guys can hold us accountable too, because we are not perfect. And we have 2 little kids that love not so great things. And so we got to shift them little by little.
Yeah. With the Whole Foods, my son is doing awesome. He's eating all the snacks, the healthy snacks. My daughter, this is nasty. Doesn't even give it a second try. So it's definitely a struggle bus of year.
Yes, and this is very important in both just the natural world and also the spiritual world. Part of being a Christian is being disciplined, whether we want to accept it or not. In all aspects of that word, we need to be disciplined.
Self-control.
Yes, and so we just want to say that we love you guys. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. Thank you so much for all the feedback and all the love. We really, really, really appreciate it. And we just want to ask you guys, if you guys have a quick second to like, subscribe, follow, and share, we would really appreciate it. But hey, thank you so much. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.